Hey guys, I'm so excited. Today I'm going to introduce you to the newest laser from Xtool. This is the Xtool P2S. Now Xtool is saying the S stands for Supreme. This is an updated version of the P2. They launched the P2 a while back and they made some major upgrades and now they came out with the P2S. Before I show you around the machine and talk about some specs and stuff, let's go to my workbench and show you some projects I did with this laser. Now I decided not to make an unboxing video because, well, it looks just like the original P2 and there are plenty of unboxing videos for that one, so the unboxing would be pretty much the same. And I wanted to keep this video a little bit shorter because my last laser review video was 42 minutes long, so I tried to make it a little bit shorter. Now, before I show you the projects that I made with this laser, let me just tell you, if you're not familiar with the Xtool lasers, the P2S, just like the P2, it's a CO2 laser, so it's not a diode laser. This was very new to me. I've never owned a CO2 laser before, so there were some things I needed to learn. And I'm very, very excited about it. CO2 lasers, I've always thought of them as being for professionals. Only people that have businesses owns a CO2 laser. The diode laser will be more like the beginner laser. And I'm not sure if that is true or not, but now these days the CO2 lasers become more and more affordable and more user-friendly. And I am very happy to have one now, and let's see what you can do with it. Now, the thing that I am the most excited about a CO2 laser is the fact that it can engrave on clear acrylic. A diode laser cannot engrave acrylic, cannot engrave glass, for example, like clear glass, but a CO2 laser can. So why do I want to be able to cut clear acrylic? Well, it's because I make a lot of templates. I've cut, this one still has the paper on it, but I've cut tons and tons of templates with this new laser and did some really cool projects. Let me show you a couple of them. I am going to a craft show this weekend and I needed to make some more cheese boards. So I made these cheese boards using my acrylic templates. Look how cool that is. I mean, it's just perfect, perfect, perfect. And I would have not been able to do anything like this if I didn't have a laser. This is an inlay I did with this, and we'll talk about that more in a second, where we'll talk about how to make this. Another design that I use this acrylic template is the simulation of box joints. Look how cool that is. And you get the most perfect fit, no gaps at all. I have another one that simulates dovetails. So another a really cool one. And the way these templates work is I cut them with the laser. So I made my design onto Inkscape, then I cut them with the laser, and then I take this template and I stick them to a piece of wood and I trace them with a pencil. Then I go to my bandsaw and I cut close to the line that I put the template back on. And then at the router table, I just use a flush trim bit and I cut the wood to exact shape of the templates, and then that will ensure that everything matches together perfectly. Now, when I made the template, I did account for the curve of the laser, which is not much. You really don't need it with the laser. The glue itself is going to fill it up, but I did account for it just to make sure I get a tighter fit. Now, before we start, I should mention that this laser, it was sent to me by Xtool for review, so I did not buy it with my own money. I just like to be clear about that. And also, if you do decide to purchase this laser, please use the links in the description below. Those are affiliate links. That means to no extra cost to you. I will be earning a small commission. Now, when I did this whale inlay, I actually made the pocket of the inlay with the laser. So I used the laser to basically burn a pocket in there. And then I cut the whale with the laser. And it just fits right there in the pocket and I was able to glue it in. Here is more example of the same kind of technique. The pocket would look something like this, and then you have your inlay pieces that you just glue in. And just in a matter of a couple of minutes, you have an inlay that will turn this kind of ordinary cheese board into something more spectacular and unique. And I really love doing inlays with my laser. Fun fact, I actually never really do engravings with my laser other than putting my brand on the pieces of work that I do, and sometimes I even forget to do that. But I never really do engraving. I use my laser mostly for cutting and doing inlays, and I'm going to show you a couple of things that you can do with it. Now here is another piece that I used, the acrylic template. That this one is going to become a box lid. I made a few other templates. This is one that I use for when I make tissue box covers. When it comes to the engraving, there is no surprise. The Xtool P2S does a fantastic job at engraving. This is my signature. This is in the inside of what is going to be one of those tissue boxes. As you can see, very, very good quality engraving. I also engraved on stainless steel. Oops, I almost dropped it. And these things are called, I don't know if I can show you because it's so reflective. These things are called makers coins. They are 19 millimeter in diameter, and you engrave them with your signature on it, and then you can just use a Forstner bit and make a little hole into your project and then glue this thing in, and that's how you put your signature if you don't want to engrave it straight into your project. So when it comes to CO2 laser, the Xtool P2S engraves on stainless steel, coated aluminum, pretty much everything you can engrave with a diode laser, you can do it with a CO2 laser, plus more. Like I said, CO2 laser can also do clear acrylic and glass. Now my first test of engraving on clear acrylic was this piece over here. As you can see, very nice clear engraving. I was very, very happy with it. And then I decided to make a little night light. Now, because it is such a good engraving on that piece of acrylic, I decided to make some night lights. And I couldn't think of any clever design or anything like that. I just did something that says Merry Christmas. Now, you can do any kind of designs, cut it to any shape and whatever. The night lights, they come in a pack of 12. It costs about $5 per night light. And I bet you can sell it for $20 easily. Now, the one thing I learned about cutting clear acrylic is to leave the paper on when you cut it and then peel it off, because the Xtool P2S uses a camera to focus it, it does autofocus, so no more probes that touches the material. But because of that, because it's clear, sometimes it just goes right through it, and it cannot take accurate focus. It just focuses on the grade that is underneath. But if you leave the paper on, then it will see it. Now, I also engraved, I didn't have any glass around, so I went and stole a piece of stained glass from my daughter. And I took a small piece and engraved it. I completely missed the focus here. So let's see if I can show you. It kind of looks like frosted glass, but it does engrave on glass really, really nicely, very clear. It's hard to show, but it did a fantastic job. And because that stained glass was, didn't have paper on it, I did use some of this laser masking paper. This is specifically designed for laser. So you can put it on your clear acrylic or glass or whatever, and then you engrave through it, and it works fantastic. Now, when I make this kind of inlays, it does take, the longest part is to make the pocket, because you basically have to burn the wood underneath the whole pocket, so it takes a little while. So I thought about how can I make this even faster. So I made some templates, just like this with the whale. And this template is going to allow me to do my inlays in just a matter of seconds. So how will this work? How can I do it in seconds? Well, I'll be using a pattern bit. A pattern bit is kind of like a flush trim bit, but it has the ball on the bottom. And this is the smallest pattern bit you can buy. It's a 1/4 inch. And I'll be using a router, using the pattern that I made with my laser, because I could have not made this without the laser. And this pattern bit, because it has a ball, the ball is going to ride, let me show you. Let me take a wooden piece because it's hard to see it on the clear. So this tiny ball that is on the router bit is going to ride along my pattern, and is going to make a pocket into the wood piece. If you can imagine, your double-siding tape, stick your pattern to the wood, and then you use this pattern bit. It rides along the pattern with this ball bearing, and then you make a pocket onto the piece of wood. So this template is going to let me do the pocket for the inlay with the router, which is so much faster. It should only take me a couple of seconds. Then I can cut the whale itself from the thin material 1/8 inch on the laser. I can do it with the router as well because I do have this. I can use flash trim bit. You have to stick this to a bigger piece of material because it is pretty small and you don't want your hands so close to the router bit. But you could make it with the router because you do have the pattern that you made with the laser. You can also use a specific inlay kit. I have one here attached to this palm router. It comes with this bushing and then it has this ring. So then you will cut the pocket with this bushing on and the ring on, and this just rides along the pattern. And then you take off this ring and you cut your piece that goes in, like your whale in our case. So you could do that as well. So as you can see, being able to make patterns with your laser, it is pretty much a life changer when it comes to woodworking. Now, if you look at the whale that I made the pocket with the laser, I did modify it a little bit for the router template. And the reason I had to modify it is to make sure that my router bit, the 1/4 inch, can get all the way into the corners there, because if it's pointy, the router bit cannot get in there and you cannot get an accurate pocket. So I did modify it a little bit to make it work with the router. Now another thing that I use my laser for pretty much daily is cut tiny pieces. For example, these tiny squares. This is rosewood and it's just 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter. So you might say, Skylar, what do you use these tiny pieces for? You know, I cut a whole bunch of them. Well, let me show you what I do with them. Here is a box that I made with those tiny pieces of rosewood. And as you can see, it's a pretty ordinary box. Very simple, doesn't have splines or anything crazy. But when you look at the lid, look how fantastic it is. And I did that with the laser. What I did is I took these tiny pieces of wood that I just cut with the laser. There is no way you can cut these tiny pieces with anything else other than a laser. They are just too small and it would be dangerous to cut it with anything else. So I took those tiny pieces of wood that are just like 1/8 inch thickness. You can do 1/16 if you want. And then I just glued them to another piece of rosewood. So I use rosewood pieces, glue them to rosewood. You can see them over here, how they're glued. And I just alternated the pattern of the grain. So I just put one going up and down, one going sideways. And I ended up with this very unique lid that now it just made my box from ordinary to something that is unique and interesting. So that is something that I use my laser for pretty much every day. Here is another good example of laser use to make inlays. I showed you those pieces of inlays I have there. You make a pocket with the laser, you cut the inlay piece. This one is Wenge lid, and I use a yellow heart inlay, and you make the pocket and put it in, and you end up with something amazing, what otherwise would have been just a simple box. Here is another example of laser work. This is a lid that I'm making for a box, and look how 3D and intricate this look. And I use the same technique. This one I just put epoxy on it just to make it shiny. But I use the same technique. I cut tons and tons of little triangles, and these triangles are just arranged into this kind of flower star design, whatever you want to call it. And again, it's no way you can cut those tiny pieces with anything else but a laser. For those of you guys that have been following me for a while, you know I work a lot with epoxy and make charcuterie boards. So I was very curious if you can engrave on epoxy. So I took a coaster. There was a scrap coaster that I kind of messed up, and I wanted to see if I can engrave on it. And the first try I did ended up terrible, just a bunch of scratches. And what happened is this coaster, if you look on the side, It has a solid layer on the bottom, and then it has the flowers, and it has clear on top. So because the laser takes a picture and measures the distance to the object to take the focus, and it's clear on top, I think it just kind of saw through the clear and focused on the flowers, which is a good almost half an inch below. So then my focus was so low that it went to engrave. It was actually just scratching the material because it was bumping into it. So I did put some of that white masking tape so the laser can see where it is the top. And then I engraved and I put my logo over there. If you can see, very clean, very nice engraving. The reflection doesn't make it easy. But yes, you can engrave on epoxy. Why do you need to do it? Well, often I will have customers wanted to buy something and they want it engraved. And the product is already done. I need to be able to put their name on it or whatever they want engraved on it, and that's why I tested. Let's go through a little bit of the things that are new with the Xtool P2S. What are the improvements? What is different than the original P2? The number one big improvement is the exhaust. Now, the first big improvement of this laser versus the original P2 is the exhaust fan. The exhaust fan, it is now so much more powerful. They increased it from 145 CFM to 233 CFMs. So it's so much more powerful now, and it can remove all that smoke and whatever fumes and stuff, and makes it safer and cleaner. The second huge improvement is the air assist. If you are familiar with Xtool S1, for that one, the air assist, it's a separate unit that sits outside of the machine, where with the P2, everything gets built inside the machine. So you do not have an air assist outside of it separately. Now, the air assist on the new Xtool P2S, it's improved from 150 kilopascals to 200 kilopascals. Kilopascals is a measure of pressure. Now, having a stronger air assist, it is very, very crucial to keep your mirrors clean, and it will improve the longevity of your laser. Also, it will give you cleaner cuts. The third big improvement with this laser is the optical path solution. I've watched a few unboxings of the original P2, and I saw that it was so hard to calibrate the lenses to get accurate focus. And I was a little bit nervous about getting this out of the box and calibrating those lenses. But the new optical path solution, it is so easy. It takes you max of 5 minutes to calibrate it. What it is, I'm going to bring it in closer, although I don't think you'll be able to see because it's so dark in here. So the optical path, what they mean by that is your laser has 3 mirrors. One is in the back where your chiller is, one is here, and one is here. And the laser basically bounces off these mirrors to go down onto your material. And they have to be in a specific angle to make sure the laser goes where it needs to be. And it's very simple now to calibrate them. You just have to loosen up these 3 screws. There are 2 on the top and 1 on the side. So you loosen up those screws, and then you have your screws on the sides of your mirror, and you use your screwdriver and you just slightly adjust them. And what makes it really easy now is that they have this optical path. They have a laser beam. It's a red laser beam that will be projected onto this target area. There's very clear instructions when you set up your laser. And then as you screw those little screws from the mirrors to the left and right, you can see the laser beam moving, and it has to be within this one circle. And you can adjust them really, really easily. I'll make a separate video on that. When I will need to clean my mirrors, we'll adjust them and all that. Now, out of the box, my laser was pretty good. I did a test on the accuracy of the camera, and it was just off by about 1 to 2 millimeters. But I only had to adjust this one mirror over here. Just one screw needed to move a tiny little bit, and that just made it perfect. And now it's like pretty much right on accurate within, like, I don't know, a half a millimeter or something, which is very good for me, more than I need. The laser bed is huge. It's 26.7 by 14.1, I believe. So really big work area, which is great for making those templates, because you can make really, really big templates. It does have the slots on the bottom. That's one thing that I wish it had the honeycomb grid. I really like, because I cut those tiny pieces, and honeycomb grid is so much more useful for me. I do believe they are coming out with a honeycomb grid for the Xtool P2S, and I will definitely be purchasing that one because I need it. On the underside, you have your tray for collecting your pieces that are falling down as you're cutting things. Not sure if you saw inside, this is the way these grids are, and you can remove this and get them tighter if you need to. I still think I like the honeycomb grid better. Now, the maximum thickness you can do with this laser, you can engrave with this laser on this configuration. It's 2.5 inches, so quite a bit bigger than the S1. Another huge improvement to this P2S is the X-axis. They improved it now. It's 40% faster than the original P2, so your engraving, it's so much faster. Now with Xtool, we did have the option to do batch fill, and like I said, I don't do engraving, so I've never actually tried it. But with this new laser now, they will have the batch fill 2.0, which the really cool thing about it is that now you can import a spreadsheet of different designs, so it doesn't have to be exact the same design. And the software will place them smartly on your object, and you can batch engrave things even if they're not the same design. You can have different designs. Now, from a design point of view, very slick design. It looks exactly like the P2, the original one. No buttons on the front. On the top here, you have your start button. Then on the side, let me move you around. You have your emergency button, which, by the way, Xtool takes their safety very seriously. And before I was even able to use my laser for the first time, I had to go through this course of safety. So when you first plug it in, you have to watch all these videos and read all about safety. So safety is very important to Xtool, and I like that. So you have the emergency stop button. By the way, with the lid open, the laser doesn't even work, so you have to have the lid closed. The lid does have that safety plexiglass on top, so you don't have to wear glasses, and you can keep an eye on your laser. It's safe. On the back, it has the exhaust fan, which now has a quick release. So you just, I don't know how to get you in there to see. So it has this button, so the button you press, and now you can pull this thing out. There's your fan, and it goes back in. This is where you can plug in all kinds of accessory. You have your power button and on and off button. Now, I forgot to show you, but here in the back, you have some filters that are magnetic, and you have to make sure you keep clean. They look something like this. Make sure you give them a wipe. Magnetic, really easy to put right back on. Now, the back of the machine opens up. There are 6 screws on the inside and 5 on the outside. I took them off just so I can show you. Let me get this out without breaking a nail. There you go. And this is your tube with the chiller. You have to put this antifreeze and water mix in here. Very clear instructions on the manual. And then, let me see if I can move the camera here with the tripod. This is where you put your antifreeze and water, and you probably need to check regularly, make sure the levels are correct. Now, like I said before, I've never had the original P2, so I cannot compare it to that, but I do have the S1, and I've tested over 15 lasers in the last year alone. And compared to the S1, this engraves just as good. It cuts better. It is faster. The ability to engrave and cut on acrylic, it's huge for me. Like I showed you, those templates, it really makes you improve your woodworking and come up with new ideas and something unique that you don't see every day. Engraving on glass is huge as well. If you can imagine, if you're in the engraving business, which I'm not, but imagine if you can get jobs for weddings. They always want engraved glasses with the date or the names of the groom and the bride. And those are big jobs that pays a lot of money. You can, like I said, do wedding glasses. You can do placemats, like acrylic placemats with people's name and so that goes to the table. So there's like some big business opportunities that you can do with a CO2 laser that you cannot do with a diode laser. What's this laser for? Well, it's for me, obviously. I think if you want to have a business on making keychains, jewelry, if you're a woodworker like me and you need it for templates, you can sell templates. By the way, a template like this, if you look on Amazon or any kind of website, a template sells for around $20 or more, $20 to $30, average of $20. And out of a plexiglass sheet that is 12 by 12, you can make at least 2 templates. The plexiglass alone will cost you between $10 and $15, depends on where you buy it from, but if you can sell it for $20, $25, then you can make 2 or more from the same plexiglass sheet. Well, you can see there's a big business opportunity there with basically no work at all, because you don't have to sand, you don't have to assemble anything. You just take the plexiglass, put it in your laser, and let it work while you do other work in the shop, and it's basically free money. Now, if you already have the original P2, should you upgrade to P2S? I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't have that one. But coming from a diode laser, it is a big step up, and I cannot recommend it enough. Now, this was just a really quick overview of this laser. I will be having more videos on it because right now this is going to be my primary laser. I actually took my S1 and packed it away. So this is my primary laser, and I'll be making a lot more projects with it. We'll try to come up with something more creative. And so you will get to see a lot of this laser. I will show you how to clean the mirrors and batch engraving and all that. I just have to get a little bit more hands-on with it because right now I've only been working with this for 3 days. So this is the project I got to do in 3 days. I hope this was helpful to you and you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skylar Ewing, and I'll see you in my next video.